Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Stanford Briggs, and I built homes for a living, big ones, small ones, the kind that hold dreams. But the one I built with my wife Kendra. That one became the biggest lie of all. The night it happened, I was sitting in our kitchen, the same one I had renovated for her birthday 2 years ago. Subway tile backsplash, farmhouse sink, dimmable lighting, everything she'd pointed at in a Pinterest folder. The house was quiet, too quiet, and the glow from my laptop cast long shadows on the marble countertops. That's when I saw it. An email. Subject line, move the inheritance. It's better this way. No greeting. No explanation. Just a bank transfer confirmation. And attached? A blurry photo. Kendra, my wife of 12 years, on a balcony at sunset. Wine glass in hand. Some guy with a smug beard and his hand on her lower back. Smiling like she'd finally arrived. The timestamp showed 11:22 p.m. She was supposed to be at a wellness retreat in Sedona. No phones. No distractions. Just soul work, she'd said. But there she was, in Scottsdale, not Sedona, kissing my money goodbye with a man who clearly wasn't practicing yoga. And the money? $587,000. My inheritance. Every cent left to me by Aunt Clarice, the woman who raised me after my parents were killed in a car accident when I was 14. Clarice was a nurse who'd worked nights and saved every penny. When she passed, she left everything to me with one note written in perfect cursive. Build something they can't take from you. Kendra took it anyway. At least, she thought she did. I closed the laptop slowly. No rage. No yelling. Just a cold stillness. I poured a glass of water, walked to the window, and looked out at the backyard, the stone path I laid by hand, the hydrangeas she'd planted along the edge. The same ones she hadn't watered in months. I didn't cry. I didn't call her. I just whispered to the empty kitchen. She has no idea what she just triggered. Because the truth was, I'd seen it coming. 3 months ago, I noticed things. Her retreats went from weekends to week-long getaways. She started turning her phone face down. She changed her email password. She even asked weirdly specific questions. Where's the trust account again? Which bank is Aunt Clarice's money in? Should we diversify the funds? I pretended not to notice. I nodded. I smiled. But behind the scenes, I had already moved the money. The account she drained. It was a decoy. A test. My real inheritance. Locked tight in an irrevocable trust. Shielded, monitored, guarded like Fort Knox. Rita Wallace, Clarice's longtime attorney, helped me set it up the moment the estate cleared. Because something about Kendra's tone the day I told her about the inheritance had felt off. Too excited. Too opportunistic. I had told her, it's for our future. She had replied, let's use it to expand my wellness brand. She meant her future. Without me. The next morning, I didn't text her. Didn't reply to the email. I went about my routine. Coffee. Emails. Work. But inside, I was sharpening something. Not a knife. A plan. Because betrayal this calculated, it deserved a response just as precise. And unlike Kendra, I didn't make mistakes. You know the worst part about betrayal? It's not the money. It's not even the lies. It's realizing that the person you loved, really loved, looked you in the face for years, and pretended. That morning, I sat in the living room, alone in the house we built together. I ran my fingers along the arm of the sofa she insisted we buy from that overpriced boutique in Charleston. I looked at the gallery wall, Pictures of us in Greece, at her product launches, laughing in a life she was already trying to erase. She didn't even bother to call me. No apology. No explanation. Just a thief with my last name and a new man who poured her wine while I poured concrete dreams. I didn't leave the house that day. I couldn't. Everything reminded me of how thoroughly I had been replaced. The scent of her eucalyptus candles still clung to the air. Her favorite yoga mat was still rolled up in the closet. Her shoes, those ridiculous ones with woven heels she only wore for dinner parties, still lined the entryway like she'd be back on Sunday. But she wasn't coming back. Because she'd already left a long time ago. I just hadn't seen it until now. And I started to wonder, was any of it real? Did she ever love me? Did she ever believe in what we built? I lay in bed that night, not in the king-sized one we used to share, but in the guest room, the one with the stiff mattress and cold sheets. I didn't want the memory of her beside me. I couldn't bear the weight of the ghost she left behind. My phone stayed silent. Not a single message from her. But I wasn't surprised. Kendra never liked confrontation. She liked control. And when she couldn't control me anymore, she disappeared. But what she didn't know, what she never even considered, was that her vanishing act was the beginning of her unraveling. I met Kendra 15 years ago at a wellness convention in Asheville. She was magnetic. Spirited. Talking about organic balms and essential oils with the kind of intensity most people reserve for religion. I was there to speak on eco-friendly architectural design. She stopped by my booth. She said she loved how I talked about spaces that breathe. She asked if I wanted to help design her flagship studio. I didn't know it at the time, but she was already testing how well I'd follow her script. We got married 3 years later. No kids, her decision. My brand is my baby, she always said. And I supported that. I never pushed. I admired her ambition. But looking back now, I see the signs. Clear as blueprint lines. When Aunt Clarice got sick, I took 6 months off to care for her. Kendra visited once, maybe twice. Claimed hospitals gave her anxiety. I never pressed it. She started changing after Clarice's funeral. Less present. More distant. At first, I told myself it was stress. Then I blamed myself. Maybe I'd been too withdrawn. Maybe grief had pushed me into a shell. But it wasn't grief that caused Kendra to start laughing at 2 a.m. in the kitchen with her phone pressed to her ear, whispering with a smile I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't grief that made her delete call logs and keep her laptop password protected. It wasn't grief that made her ask what would happen to our finances if something happened to me. She was planning this long before the email came. And the part that hollowed me out like a gutted house. She did it all while pretending to love me. I replayed memories in my head like crime scene footage. Every kiss. Every dinner. Every "I love you" that now felt like a transaction. And still, through all of that, I would have forgiven her. If she had asked. If she had told me she wanted out. If she had been honest. But she didn't. She wanted the money, the man, the escape, all without the guilt. So she chose theft over truth. Abandonment over decency. And betrayal over love. That night, I lay awake until 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, my hands trembling, not from rage, but from grief. I wasn't mourning a woman. I was mourning a lie. But the grief would only last a little longer. Because clarity was coming. And with it, something else. Something cold. Something sharp. Not vengeance. Not yet. But the first blueprint of what I was going to do next. She thought she'd buried me. But I wasn't gone. I was just quiet. And when I got loud, she would never hear silence again. They say betrayal has a smell. I used to think that was just a poetic metaphor. But standing in the hallway that morning, alone in the home I paid for, surrounded by the echo of her voice and the faint trace of her perfume, I could swear it smelled like lavender, citrus, and lies. That was the day I stopped mourning and started digging. No more staring at walls. No more pacing the floors like some broken ghost. I needed to know the full extent of what she'd done, and how long she'd been planning it. I didn't start with her phone. I knew she was too smart to leave trails there. Instead, I opened a folder on our shared cloud drive, the one labeled Home Renovation Ideas. We used it to collect photos and receipts for the projects we'd planned. Or rather, the projects I thought we'd do together. At first, it was innocent. PDF invoices for tile samples, clippings from design blogs, lighting fixtures. Then, buried beneath folders titled Mudroom Concepts and Outdoor Kitchen Wishlist, I found a file labeled simply, Finances. It wasn't password protected. She never thought I'd look. Inside were scans of my bank statements. Screenshots of account balances. Handwritten notes, her handwriting, calculating transfer timelines and estimated fees. One spreadsheet was titled Exit Strategy. And there it was, a line item with the words, Stanford's Inheritance, minus 20%, penalty risk. 20%. That's what my life and legacy were worth to her. I clicked open another document, a photo of a whiteboard, taken in low light. Across the top, scrawled in marker. $587,000, moved before September 15th. Next to that, a doodle of a plane. She was planning to disappear. Probably for good. And in that moment, something inside me settled into place, not rage, not heartbreak. Something colder. Something focused. I'd found what I needed. She had planned to rob me and vanish. But what she didn't know, what would destroy her once it came out, was that I had already seen this coming. 3 months earlier, I'd sat down with my aunt's longtime lawyer, Rita Wallace. Clarice had warned me to be cautious. Said not everyone in your life has your legacy at heart. So I listened. Rita helped me move the money into a fully protected irrevocable trust, one Kendra couldn't touch, couldn't see, and couldn't manipulate no matter how many passwords she had. What she tried to move. It was a decoy account. A separate holding structure I created when I sensed something was off. She'd transferred money from that account into her own, thinking she was draining my future. But in truth, she'd triggered an alert system. Every keystroke, every login attempt, every dollar moved, it was all monitored. Time-stamped. Traced. She had given me a gift. Proof. And I wasn't the only one who had it. That morning, I called Rita. Her voice was calm but firm. Stanford, the trust company's tracking team documented 3 unauthorized access attempts from a location in Arizona, Scottsdale, not Sedona. I didn't say a word. There's more, Rita continued. Someone accessed the cloud storage and downloaded financial documents from your home network a month ago. That lined up with when she claimed she was researching contractors. I thanked her. Then I opened my call log. I dialed Jerry, the financial advisor for my architectural firm. He answered on the first ring. Stanford. I've been waiting for your call. Turns out, someone had been trying to bypass my security on several of our business accounts too, accounts with ties to the same last name, Briggs. Only, it wasn't me doing it. Kendra had left a trail everywhere. And now, I was assembling a file she could never erase. One that wouldn't just end our marriage. It would obliterate her credibility, her business, her future. That night, I sat down and opened a new document. I labeled it, Phase 1. Because I wasn't going to confront her with anger. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to bury her the same way she tried to bury me. Legally. Financially. Publicly. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for justice. And Kendra had just handed me the blueprints. You don't survive betrayal by reacting. You survive it by planning. By calculating every move your enemy doesn't see coming. And at that point, Kendra wasn't just my wife anymore. She was the thief who tried to erase me. But I wasn't interested in shouting matches or dramatic confrontations. No. She wanted an exit. I'd make sure she got one. Just not the kind she expected. The morning after I confirmed her attempts to move the fake inheritance funds, I sat down at my desk with a cup of black coffee and a legal pad. At the top, I wrote. Objective. Protect myself. Expose her. End this quietly, with her reputation in ashes. Then I made 3 calls. 1. Rita Wallace, my lawyer and the executor of Aunt Clarissa's trust. 2. Jerry Townsend, my firm's financial advisor. 3. Thomas Webb, a bulldog divorce attorney Rita had once recommended for, just in case. It was no longer a, just in case. Within an hour, we had a plan in motion. Thomas's voice was cool and professional. We filed for divorce on the grounds of financial misconduct. Georgia courts take trust violations seriously. Especially when they're documented. Rita sent over screenshots of every blocked login attempt, every unauthorized download, every recorded IP address tied to Kendra's laptop. She even included time-stamped photos of the attempted access from Arizona. All legal. All damning. Jerry forwarded account statements showing her siphoning over $178,000 from our joint personal account into a private one at Northern Lakes Credit Union, an account I hadn't even known existed. The kicker. The new account listed an apartment address in Scottsdale, Arizona. I cross-checked it. The unit was leased under her name, signed 6 months ago. She'd been building a whole new life behind my back. And now? I had enough evidence to bury her ambitions in court and drag her brand down with her. But I didn't want a spectacle. I wanted control. So I mapped it out like a building plan. Layer by layer. Step 1, file divorce papers quietly, no warning, no confrontation. Step 2, freeze all joint assets. Alert the banks. Issue account alerts and block any new withdrawals. Step 3, compile the full evidence package, financial logs, access records, screenshots, and, just in case, a sworn statement from my neighbor Frank, who saw a bearded man in a Tesla dropping Kendra off at odd hours while I was out of town. Step 4, prepare for the settlement. But hold back the real trump cards unless she played dirty. And then I made the hardest move of all. I texted her. Received your email. Processing. I'll be in touch when ready to discuss. Within minutes, she responded. So that's all you have to say? You're being dramatic, Stanford. Let's be adults about this. The money is already moved. It's better for both of us. She thought she had me cornered. She thought her silence had me stunned. She had no clue that every message she sent only strengthened my case. She had no idea that by trying to erase me, she'd become the author of her own downfall. And the best part? I still hadn't told her I knew. Not about the trust. Not about the dummy account. Not about the apartment in Scottsdale. Or the bearded man named Jason Berkeley, a former investment broker turned yoga instructor. Her new, spiritual partner. I had found his LinkedIn. His Instagram. His blog. Every post screamed of self-righteous, healing, and detaching from toxic masculine energy. Kendra had traded a solid marriage for a man who wore linen pants and posted quotes from Rumi while stealing other men's wives. But I wasn't here to compete. I was here to finish what she started, with precision. The next day, Thomas filed the paperwork. By Friday morning, Kendra's lawyer, David Lawrence, called me. Mr. Briggs, I'm representing your wife in your separation. She tells me this can be resolved amicably. I kept my voice flat. That depends on what she's claiming. Well, she's under the impression she's entitled to a portion of the inheritance. I cut him off. She tried to transfer funds from a trust she legally can't touch. Silence. Is that so? I suggest you talk to Rita Wallace and verify everything she's done in the last 3 weeks. In the meantime, your client has drained nearly $180,000 from our joint account, has a secret apartment, and is shacked up with a man who helped her try to move funds illegally. Another silence. Longer this time. Perhaps I should consult with my client again. Do that. I hung up. And smiled for the first time in weeks. Because the blueprint was drawn. The concrete had been poured. And the trap was finally set. You don't lay a foundation without expecting resistance. That Friday, while most people were counting down to the weekend, I was watching my plan unfold in real time, every brick clicking into place. At 8:14 a.m., Rita forwarded a notice from the trust security system. There had been 3 new access attempts, all blocked, originating from Scottsdale, Arizona. Kendra was still trying to get to the money. I forwarded the alert to Thomas and added a short note. She's not done digging. Let's make sure she knows we've already built the coffin. He replied within minutes. Understood. Preparing the next layer. At 11:27 a.m., David Lawrence called again. This time, his voice had changed. No more confident legalese. Just caution. Mr. Briggs. I've reviewed some of the documents your legal team sent over. My client may have misrepresented certain financial details. You mean she lied? I can't comment on that specifically, but, yes. Some aspects are materially inaccurate. I didn't say a word. Would you be open to an out-of-court settlement? Depends on what's on the table. My client proposes to forfeit any future claims. She keeps what she's already accessed, and you retain all rights to the trust and remaining assets. I laughed. Quiet. Cold. She stole $178,000. You think she walks away with that? You could pursue criminal charges. I'm aware. Then what do you want? I want her to return half. And sign a non-disclosure agreement. She walks away with her brand intact. I walk away with peace. Another long silence. I'll speak to her. But she didn't call me. She called my bluff. Or so she thought. That night, my doorbell rang. Courier delivery. I signed without a word. Inside, a formal letter from Lawrence withdrawing legal representation for Kendra. Attached was a note from Thomas. First domino has fallen. I waited. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up. Kendra. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. Then came the texts. What the hell did you do? You're blowing this way out of proportion. We need to talk now. I responded with a single line. Talk to your new lawyer. When you have one. But Kendra wasn't done fighting. By Monday, she'd hired a new attorney, Philip Barnes. Aggressive. Expensive. The kind of guy who made threats in designer suits. He filed for an emergency hearing, claiming Kendra's financial decisions had been jointly discussed and agreed upon. I almost admired her nerve. Almost. But then Thomas delivered the counterpunch. We sent Barnes full IP logs showing illegal access attempts to the trust. Screenshots of Kendra's financial planning folder, including her exit strategy. Bank records showing a systematic siphoning of our joint funds. Proof of the Scottsdale apartment. And a notarized statement from our neighbor Frank, confirming he saw a bearded man in a gray Tesla visiting our home, while I was out of town. By 5 p.m., Thomas received a call. Barnes wanted a settlement meeting. Urgently. He's seen enough, Thomas said. He knows it's over. Tuesday morning, Kendra arrived at the courthouse looking hollow. No makeup. No jewelry. Just a tight-lipped expression and eyes that darted everywhere except toward me. She entered the consultation room with Barnes and sat across from me. Thomas laid out the agreement. She returns $89,275, half the money she stole from our joint accounts. She signs an NDA, forbidding her from discussing our marriage or the divorce. She makes no further claims on the trust or any business assets. And in return, I wouldn't pursue criminal charges. She glanced at the file, photos, logs, the screenshots she thought she'd deleted. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. But no argument came. Just a slow, shaking nod. I accept the terms, she whispered. She signed. Then I handed her a second envelope. What's this? She asked. Passwords. To the house alarm. The cloud. Whatever you left behind. She looked up. Her eyes searched my face for anger, or maybe, forgiveness. She found neither. It was never about the money, I said. That would have been easier. Barnes placed a hand on her arm. She stood, silent. And for the first time since the email, the theft, the retreat, the man in Scottsdale, Kendra Briggs looked like she knew she had lost. They say when someone shows you who they are, believe them. But what they don't tell you is this: sometimes, the real person doesn't show up until after they've lost. I thought the signing was the end. Kendra accepted the settlement. She walked out of that consultation room pale, silent, defeated. Her lawyer didn't even try to spin it. No smug smiles, no empty threats, just quiet paperwork and a quick exit. For a few weeks, things were calm. Peaceful, even. I started to breathe again. Until the envelope arrived. No return address. No postmark. Just my name, handwritten. Inside was a check for exactly $89,275, the balance Kendra owed. But also tucked inside, a note. Scrawled in her unmistakable handwriting. This isn't just the money. It's the rest of what I owe you. No signature. None needed. I stood in the kitchen, holding that check, and something inside me shifted. Closure. Maybe. But it felt more like a prelude. Because 2 days later, Rita called. Stanford, the trust company has received another request for documentation. From who? I asked. A private investigator. Retained by Jason Berkeley. My jaw locked. Jason. The yoga retreat healer. The one she'd thrown everything away for. What was he trying to access? Background on the trust. He claimed it was part of a civil due diligence review. But here's the kicker: he tried using your name. With falsified documents. It wasn't just Kendra. Now he was trying to dig. That was the twist I hadn't expected. Jason wasn't just a rebound. He was a co-conspirator. I called Thomas immediately. He didn't even hesitate. If Jason tries to impersonate you again, we can file a criminal complaint. And if we can prove Kendra coordinated with him. Joint fraud, I finished. Exactly. But I wasn't after prison time. I wanted one final blow. A reminder. Something public. Something poetic. And I knew just the place. 3 years ago, Kendra had launched a wellness foundation. It was her crown jewel, designed to empower women through holistic healing and financial independence. She'd built it off the success of her skincare brand, held annual conferences, even gave a keynote last spring titled Building a Life That Loves You Back. Yeah. I had the footage. And more importantly, I had her tax filings. Because when I pulled the foundation's public financial disclosures, I saw something interesting. A $50,000 donation from our joint account, dated 6 months before the Scottsdale apartment lease. She'd laundered money through her own nonprofit. Money she stole from me. So I did what any architect of revenge would do. I made an anonymous tip. To the Georgia Office of Consumer Protection. Then to the Better Business Bureau. And finally, to a local investigative reporter known for his column, Cracks in the Foundation. Within 2 weeks, Kendra's face was on the front page of the Savannah Ledger beneath the headline. Wellness warrior accused of self-dealing in nonprofit scandal. The article cited anonymous financial records, questioned the legitimacy of certain retreats, and listed Jason Berkeley by name, who, as it turned out, had once been investigated for embezzlement before his spiritual rebranding. She wasn't arrested. Not yet. But her reputation? It crumbled faster than a poorly poured driveway. The foundation's website went offline. Her Instagram comments filled with angry followers demanding refunds. Brand partnerships vanished overnight. And as for Jason, his yoga studio quietly shut down. That was the reversal. She thought I was the end of her old life. But she never realized. I was the architect of her new one. The one built on exposure. On truth. On everything she thought she'd erased. It's a strange feeling when the storm finally passes. Not relief. Not joy. Just silence. For the first time in years, I could walk through my house without seeing her fingerprints on everything. The eucalyptus candles were gone. The patio furniture she obsessed over. I sold it. The hydrangeas she never watered. I replaced them with stone lanterns, quiet, steady, lasting. I even replaced the locks. Not because I was afraid of her. But because I wanted nothing she'd touched to remain. 6 months after the scandal broke, I finalized the sale of the house on Ashcroft Lane. Too many rooms. Too many memories. Too many ghosts of conversations that meant nothing. The new owners were a young couple. She was pregnant. He worked in carpentry. They fell in love with the porch and the old oak tree in the backyard. It felt right. I moved downtown. A loft. Open space. Bare walls. Fresh start. And with the proceeds from the sale and the untouched inheritance, I did something Kendra never would have expected. I turned Aunt Clarice's trust into a foundation. One that offers architectural scholarships to kids who, like me, had lost everything young and needed someone to believe in them. The first recipient? A 17-year-old girl named Amina from rural Georgia. Her parents passed when she was 12. She wanted to study sustainable design. She wrote in her application essay, "I want to build spaces where people can heal, not hide." When Rita read it, she teared up and whispered, "Clarice would have loved her." I think so too. A week later, I received another envelope. Same handwriting. Inside, a note. No check this time. Just words. They dropped the board investigation. But the damage is done. Jason's gone. I'm starting over. Just wanted you to know. I finally understand what I did. Still no apology. Just, understanding. A little too late. I didn't respond. Instead, I took the letter to the Riverwalk, the same place where Kendra once talked about opening a joint venture spa. The one I would design, and she would operate. I watched tugboats pass under the bridge. The letter fluttered in my hand like it wanted to leave. So I let it go. Let it fall into the water and vanish, just like she had tried to do with me. But this time, I was the one letting go. Later that evening, I got a text from Jerry. "Dinner's still on for 7. I'm bringing that architect I mentioned." I looked at my reflection in the mirror, less gray in the eyes, less weight on the shoulders. Yeah. I was ready. Just enough time to change shirts, grab a coat, and head out the door. Not for revenge. Not for closure. But for what came next. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.